Hello, welcome to part two of painting a rock. And it is quite a cool rock. Looks like there's two people here, so one of them is,
Woohoo, me.
and the other one is probably my sister Kimberly, and that's cool. So
Drop a hello in the chat, Kimberly, if that's you.
if you're here,
Or if it's not you, whoever you are, drop a hello in the chat.
yeah, whoever you might be.
Oh, it went down to 1. Now it's just me.
They didn't like that. They were like, Kimberly, who's Kimberly?
Yeah. I've already offended somebody.
We're starting off good. This is the way we want it. Okay, well, one person. Okay, just you then. So Wendy, this class is for you.
Yeah,
So I
well,
hope you learn. I hope you learned something. I guess I'll give it like 0 now. Okay.
What? How did it go to 0? Mine still says 1 watching.
Huh. Well, it's just that I'm very popular, wildly popular amongst the crowds. I wonder if I should wait. Just leave it open for a bit.
Yeah.
If anybody comes in, says 1 again,
Yeah.
I'll give it like, I don't know, a couple minutes. So, to the one person that's in the room, we're just going to give it like 2 minutes. If nobody else comes in, we're going to jump into it. But otherwise, go ahead and feel free to chat in the YouTube chat. Whoever you might be. I can't see who it is. Oh, feel free to chat.
I'm pretty sure it's me because I'm logged in.
Well, this is depressing. Whatever. It's a good.
Now it says 2 again.
It's a good practice run, if nothing else.
Yeah.
I just have to remember my pedals. So I got bingo. I got the painting, the mix, and me. Okay. Painting, mix, me. Okay. Starting to figure this out.
No. Oh my gosh. Why does my computer always want to restart? No, I want to. No. Don't want it to.
Still have that song stuck in my head.
What song?
The song we just heard. Silverchair, if you haven't heard of them, please listen to them. They're awesome. I like them. Yeah, I went back down to 1.
Maybe Kimberly's having technical problems.
It's a possibility. Excuse me. If a painter falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, then does it make a sound? Well, this could be. Well, this is good training for us, regardless. You know.
Yeah.
I'll give it till 6:35, and then I'll just go for it.
Okay.
And then if people show up, they show up. If they don't, they don't.
Okay. Kimberly's here.
Hi, Kimberly.
You think you win already? Well, we're gonna give people a little more time to show up, but you have a very good chance.
What are you most excited about today, Kimberly? You're getting a one-on-one session with the one and only.
Yep. I can't hear you. Through here, I can't hear you.
No, well, I don't know.
Well, why wouldn't I be able to? Oh wait, actually my volume's muted. But I want to make sure. Okay, say something.
Hello? We'll also check and make sure that YouTube is and your volume is. Do you have a volume? I did hear something. You gotta turn it up more.
It's up all the way.
I mean that thing that you had up.
Check. Check. Okay, that's good.
So, I think Kimberly asked a question or something, but please check, por favor. And it's 6:35, so we're just gonna start.
She said she's excited. She's excited to turn this painting into something recognizable, and she can hear us.
It is recognizable as a Down syndrome cow.
No, it's a decaying tooth. Remember?
Well, no, she corrected me earlier. I said the same thing, and then she was like, "No, it's a Down syndrome cow." So we want a very good thinking cow after this is over. All right, Kimberly. So you're my only student today. Super cool. This is it'll be good for like a training run for us as well. So if you have your brushes, I've got the filbert brushes, a little like a medium size. I got a smaller size filbert, a round brush, kind of like medium size, and then an angled brush, kind of small to get into corners and whatnot. So basically, let's look at the, here's the painting where we left off. And what we're going to do tonight, is just kind of resolve some of these issues, because when I'm looking at my reference photo over here, I'll just pull it down here. There's a lot of paint all over it since I've been doing work other than this. See, I can see right already, like it's a little bit lighter maybe. And there's also some texture in here that I don't have yet. And we're going to resolve some of the shading issues. And also, we want, if you can look at this, I know it's kind of messed up because I've been working with it, but we want harder edges on some of these. Softer edges on some things and harder edges on other things. So we're going to work on that and get that going and make it beautiful. As beautiful as it can be. So, now, we're going to look at the palette, make sure you have the right colors. You said you had yellow ochre and you have black and titanium white is I think what you said. Yeah, so we're going to look at, so ignore this stuff. I was just messing around with some water soluble oils, which I just started using and I actually really like them. So I might be doing more of that in the near future. But for now,
or the recent future, that's back in time.
yeah, that's future Gary. Okay.
Oh, it looks like we got another watcher. Maybe.
Please introduce yourself and let us know who you are and what the heck you want with this. But okay, so what I've been doing is I have Payne's gray here. You can use black if you have black. And that's fine. It'll work for these purposes of just teaching. But I also I have Payne's gray, and it mixes very nicely with yellow ochre. And the reason I add yellow ochre to this is because it kind of adds a little bit of creaminess. Because if you look at the work we're doing here, even in the reference that we have, you can see that there's some yellowish tinges here. It's stone, so there's a lot of variances in stone. It's not just black and white. There's a lot of minute little colors and shifts that you'll see with stone. So we want to try and do that. If you don't have yellow ochre, that's fine too. But I'm just going to go ahead and mix some of this together to start making my base color. So what you want to start out with is a base color. And what we're looking for is something pretty dark, because that's our dog. Sorry about that.
Ruby.
She's mad because she's not in here painting.
I'm not seeing. You didn't switch your camera. Stop it.
Now, one thing I want you to also think about is when you're mixing the colors, don't go too crazy mixing, because what'll happen is if you mix it too much, it'll turn into kind of like this muddy look. And especially with stonework, it's okay to have some striations in color here, because that's actually going to work to your benefit as you're painting, because stone is very striated in nature. So we're going to have this ready to go. This is my base color now, okay? So we're going to take this and we're going to start painting on here, and we're just going to keep working through it until it looks good. Okay, let me put that over here. All right, so I'm going to start with my biggest filbert here to cover larger areas. And as you can see, we've already got a pretty good start in terms of value shifts in here. But what we're going to do is really kind of like start to develop the form of this. And in here, we're going to darken the shadows, and we're going to add some more minute details that are going to bring this more to life. But I'm just going to go ahead and start. And sometimes when you mix a color, if you haven't, like, we haven't worked on this painting for like a week, so you know there's going to be some things that I don't like that I'm going to have to shift as I go. But simply just going to start painting in. And I kind of like the way it looks already. It's got some nice values to it. The yellow ochre definitely adds a little bit more life to it. But what we're going to try and focus on here is really start to get those edges a little crisper. Because especially in these sections where the light hits it and there's an edge, you want that to be very sharp, okay? Places down here where there's a lot of shadow, that's what you call a lost edge. And it almost doesn't matter how much detail you put in there because it's all kind of gonna blend together when we do our actual casted shadow, which is gonna look kind of like, it's gonna kind of come down here and probably over there, something like that. And this is all gonna be shadow in here. So this part right here can be very dark and it's all kind of gonna blend together. But what we're gonna focus on right now is just getting the sides of this, the geometry, and the textures of this. Okay, I'm gonna actually add a little bit of more yellow ochre just because I like a little attitude. So I just splash it in there. You can just dab a few parts, right? And then I like to wipe off my brush a little bit because what happens is sometimes you get too much paint on the brush, more than you expected, and then it overpowers it. But just remember one thing, if nothing else, is to try and be loose with it. Don't be so rigid. Just let it kind of do what it's going to do. And realize that, like, even if it's not looking the way you expected or wanted, it is going to look good once you're done. Just got to push through all the pain points. I'm adding a little bit more dark into there, my main mix. And another thing that I have here, as you're painting, one of the best colors, and actually the color that you're going to use more than almost any color, is this titanium white. I don't know if you can't see that really well, but right there. And it's a very sharp, opaque color, and it cuts through. And this is just great for giving it more texture and variance in the values. But I'm going to shut up a little bit so I can concentrate on what I'm doing.
You need to switch your camera.
Ah, thank you. And a lot of times what you'll find, or at least that I've found, is as you're painting and you're just giving it more depth, what you'll notice, or at least what I've noticed, is the forms will kind of present themselves to you, interestingly enough. Like, you don't have to make sure that you're following exactly what the image is, your reference image. You can just kind of go with it, and at some point you're going to start to see things pull out on their own. Of course, you have to be intentional. I'm not saying you can just do this haphazardly and think that it's going to be okay. You have to have some intention behind it. But you will find that certain areas kind of pull out by themselves. And I like to look at the edges, right? So right here, you can see these edges that come out. If that's an edge, then usually what happens with an edge going downward is there's going to be a little bit of highlight there. It's going to be a little bit brighter. And then oppositely, in the abscess of that, it's going to be a little darker, where you would expect the shadows to be. So I'm going to put a little bit of titanium white right there where that tip is, just a little bit, and then wipe that in, just so you can start to see some edge geometry. And one of my favorite techniques that I like to do is this dabbing effect, which is just kind of tapping. It really has a nice way of blending in those colors with making it subtle and not too permanent, if that makes any sense. If it doesn't, sorry. But the biggest thing, especially with stone, is to think about, I know it's not alive, you know, like I understand that as a person logically, but think of it as something that's kind of alive, right? Something that wants to be pulled forward and pushed backward.
Kinky.
Yeah.
Got to think about the stone's needs as well.
That's right. If the stone isn't happy, no one's happy.
No one's happy.
So looking at it now, okay, we got a little bit more variation. I kind of feel like I want to add some more darks in here over on this side. I don't know how you're feeling about what should happen there, but I'm going to go a little darker than what I've been doing. So I'm going to actually take a little bit of my straight Payne's Gray. Very dark. You got to be careful. Don't put too much on the tip. That's what she said. And then we're going to go over here and just kind of smudge some of that in. And like I said, a little goes a long way, especially with something like Payne's Gray. So I have that dark spot in there. I'm going to take a little bit of my lighter color right here that I've mixed my main body color and go to the edges. Because you want to feather that out. You don't want it to be necessarily a super hard line. And now I'm going to take some titanium white because it's a little too dark on the edges there. And just dab it. Get those edges smoothed a little bit. And the biggest thing I could say about painting, anything like this or whatever you want to do, is just to not be afraid and just be a little loose with it. And just observe it as you go. And then over time, as you keep going, you'll see little things that you want to change. And I also think it's very important that you step back from it. Because when you're very up close like this, it's kind of difficult to see what's going on sometimes. So what I will do actually right now is, where's my face? I'm going to step back and look at it from a distance, because this really helps you kind of observe what you've done and look at it from a distance. You can see what the errors are. When you're up close all the time, it's very easy to get lost in those little details. From a distance, you can see more of the broad spectrum of what you're doing. So just looking at it now, it's looking pretty good. So I can see a couple things that I want to change just based on my going back there and looking at it. One of them is, I can definitely see this crack is too big. So I want to tighten that up. So I'm going to switch to my round brush because I want to get a little bit more detail and I want to shorten this crack up. I want to make it a little bit thinner. So I'm going to take my my base color here and make sure I don't have too much on there. And I'm going to start making that disappear just a tad, because that's the darkest area the crack is, you know. And in the reference image, it's not quite that beefy. And again, just go where your eye feels like it needs to go. When there's divots, like here, I can see that should probably be more shaded because there's a, you know, a little bit of a chasm right there. So just be thoughtful about what you're doing. You know, it's like, it's not just an accident that things happen. You have to also be intentional. So I'm going to take a little bit of my base color and just bring that down a little bit to the edges. And the dabbing technique, I'll tell you, it really does work pretty well, especially for just blending slightly and getting more of a texture in there. I'm going to grab some titanium white because I want some highlights here. And just be a little free with it, man. Just like relax. It's just a painting. If it looks stupid after you're done, you can always go back and fix it. And trust me, I've had to do that many, many times. But that's how you get better, honestly. Just keep doing, repeating. Rinse and repeat. So I'm going to blend that out a little bit if I can. A little more texture to it. And yeah, for acrylic paints, it just dries so damn fast. You have to be if you want a wet blend, which is what we're doing, you have to be a little bit quick with it because it dries just that quickly. So you have to be kind of on the ready. Get my smaller filbert to get into some tighter corners here. And I'm going to grab my base color because I can see down here I'm not quite happy with how this looks. I want to darken that. And just always be thinking, you know, the further away something is from light, then the darker it's going to be. I mean, that sounds very simplistic, but that's just reality. So this over here is going to be darker because the light's coming from up here. So the further away you are, the darker it's going to be. I'm going to take a little bit of titanium white just to mix that in. I should probably make a mix in between, to be honest. Let me do that. Let me just show you what I'm doing here. So I have my base color, but I want a little bit lighter of this. So I'm going to mix some titanium white with my base color just to get a more lighter stony look. Not a stoner look. That's a totally different thing. Mm-hmm. And we're just going to get those edges. See what this does? It just softens the edges. You don't want too much on your brush. Just enough to soften the edges a little bit. You want such stark transitions normally. Sometimes you do, but in this painting, it's going to be, there's differences. You're going to want some stark transitions like the lines, but when you're talking about the flat surfaces, you're going to want more of a little bit of a subtle transition. Okay. So these front-facing sides are kind of this, in my reference image, they look very similar in terms of value. They're a little bit lighter, but they're not nearly as dark as like these sides in here that are further away from the light. So I'm going to darken these. There's a little bit too light. So I'm going to darken these up just a tad with my base color. Maybe I'll do a little bit of base with that lighter tone here just to get a nice mix. And just remember, nothing is so serious. I would argue that definitely is important to kind of go with the flow of the surface. I think that really helps a lot with describing to the viewer which direction things should be going. The flow. It's all about the flow. And don't be afraid to be just kind of loose with it. Oh, thank you. See, if I didn't have Wendy here, I would...
It's like a delay, so I have to wait and see
if
it goes back or not.
And with the rock, it's like it doesn't have to be... That's the nice thing about teaching something like a rock, is because it's very forgiving. It doesn't have to be perfect, you know what I mean? It can have some attitude to it, and you'll be like, oh, I can see that. That's a rock, basically. Mm. And anybody have any questions? Am I going too fast, too slow? Sick of my voice? What is it?
Well, I think it's just Kimberly.
Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more white to this. Just feel like it needs a little bit more brightness than the opposite side there.
She said none of the above.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And again, it's really just, it's all about layers. Like, you're going to cover up what you did before, and that's okay. Because what happens with acrylic painting and with oil painting, one of the nice things about it is that even if you think you've covered it up completely, it subtly does shine through what you've done before. And that's the beauty of painting, is like the layers of it. So that's why you let it dry and you come back to it and you can keep working on it and really start to get that tone texture that you want. So I'm going to add a little bit of some more highlights to this surface over here because it's a little bit dull, but I'm going to mix that with some more titanium white over here in my lighter mix. And we're just going to start working from kind of the bottom forward. Okay. So just adding a couple of swipes where I think the light is going to hit it. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to wipe off the rest because there's too much there. And then again, just start kind of dabbing it in. And if it's still too much, all you really have to do is add a little bit of your darker tone that you have here, which we'll do because it's too much. We'll just go on the edges first and then work it in. See, it's like magic. It's like, just kind of makes everything kind of fit together. But yeah, just don't be afraid to be loose with it, because when you try and be too, I've learned, you know, when you try and be too controlled, it looks fake. Nature is very loose, and so you should kind of try and treat what you're painting a little bit like that as well, you know. You're very quiet over there, babe. Anything?
Well, I don't know what to say.
I'm going to try and blend that a little bit. So make sure you're drying off your brush a lot between the colors especially, but yeah, if you just want to blend a little bit more, wipe off your brush and just lightly dab the surface. It'll help blend some of those colors together. And it's okay to have some harder transitions and some softer transitions. That's kind of where the magic is. A little bit of both. Okay. Okay. So what I see here, for me, this top, it's got some nice yellow ochre going on, which is kind of nice for value transition, but it's still too dark because the light's directly hitting it. So this should be very light. It should be very light. So I take some titanium white, and I'm just going to go over that whole part again, being careful not to mess up these edges because they're sharp edges, but just want to brighten this up. And you can see that some of the stuff still shines through even though I'm painting. And if you get a little smudge on there, just wipe it with your finger. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but if you really mess it up, you can always go back and fix it. Okay, so I'm gonna maybe just a little bit more white there. Really brighten it up. Get that sucker bright. And if you have some paint that's like, you got like brush stroke lines and stuff, sometimes that's kind of cool because it, you know, again, it's a rock we're painting. So if you let that dry and there's some like brush stroke things, that actually kind of can look cool with something like this because it catches the light in reality and gives it some shadows and stuff like that too. So it's kind of cool for texture. So don't worry too much about that. Leave some of them if you want. Same thing up here. I'm going to lighten that up a bit. And over time, like I've gotten pretty good with brushing, and your dexterity is going to improve as you do it more. You'll be able to do more things a lot easier. It's just practice. That's it. It's all it ever is just practice. But just one of the most important things that I've learned along my journey of painting is to paint what you see and not what you know. So when you have a reference image like we have here, you look at that image and you paint exactly what you see there instead of what you think you know. Because a lot of times what you think in your head about how something should look, and I'm guilty of this too, but it ends up looking not at all like what the actual thing should be. Like this should be a stone, it should be a rock. And if you paint what you think you know, a lot of times it's going to end up looking like a Down syndrome cow, if as you were. Just kidding.
I don't
Just
see
kidding,
that. I am not getting that visual. I don't see a cow at all.
Oh, I'm not talking about mine.
Well, I just mean, and even Kimberly's, I don't see how that could look like a cow.
I got it once she told me. I was like, oh, I can definitely kind of see that now.
Like
It's
that's
funny.
the cow's head, the whole thing or something?
Yeah. You have to look at it a certain
Maybe,
way. But...
okay.
So also in here, there are, if you look at your reference photo, well, mine's kind of messed up now, but there are divots in here and little grooves and cracks and stuff. So I'm just gonna, I have a little bit of paint left over from my darker stuff. Just add a little bit of those in there. They don't have to be super intense, but any surface of rock has some, hard edges and stuff like that when the light's hitting it. So you want some of that in there too for variation. It just gives it some realism, Just dab it in. Okay, so that's okay. We're getting closer. So what I want to do now, make sure that you rinse your brushes off in the water. If you have a water cup, make sure you do that because, especially if you're working with, this is a very simple, just a couple colors. But if you're working with multi colors, a lot of colors, always make sure that you're rinsing your brush off between colors because otherwise that will stick on there obviously, and then you're left with kind of a muddy scene. But always have in your head, like, even if you think you goofed it up, everything is fixable because you simply just do paint over it. See, now that's a little too bright for me, so I'm going to tone that down a little bit. A little darker. And one of the biggest lessons I've learned, I think, is it doesn't take a lot of paint to do something. So definitely less is more. You got to be a little careful. I used to put all this paint on, it would suck up all this paint in here, and I would end up putting it on the canvas, and it's just like this whole glob of stuff that you can't really work with. So it's easier to go less first and then more later if you need it. Just FYI. So we're going to put make sure we have cracks are still, our little divots and stuff are still in there. Okay, I might come back to this later, but that's okay for now. Be a little more blending in here. It's good for now. Okay, so in here, this is the main core shadow area. This is where some of the darkest stuff is, except for in here. But I noticed that it's all dark, right? So, which is fine. And honestly, you could probably be like, okay, walk away and that's okay. But again, nothing is perfectly dark. So we're going to want to add a little bit of flavor into there. So I'm going to take some of my main mix here, and I'm just going to kind of start putting it in spots. And again, always think about something like this where it's like, when you see the edge come out here, that's where the light part's going to be, right? And on the other side, it's going to be darker. So use that as a reference. And we're going to do something here too. Obviously, it's not going to be completely dark in here. Some variance there. Now I'm going to add a little bit more dark in here too, because I want to be able to blend that a little bit. So I'm going to take my main mix here, and I'm going to dab that in parts. And then since it's so dark, I'm also going to add some more dark in there, which will be basically just my Payne's Gray. This is where you want to be careful because too much, can really mess things up and get too dark for you. but we want just a little bit on the tip of that brush for blending purposes and to create some shadows and some textures. It's already a little better. Maybe we want a little more titanium white in there just to give it a couple of small highlights. It's not going to have a ton of highlights just because it is receded and it is so dark, but if you want to do a couple and then blend them out, it just gives it a little bit of realism because, yeah, the surface of a rock is extremely varied and some points will stick out farther than others, so you want to address that when you're painting. But obviously that's a little too white for me, so we're going to tone that down with some of my darker mix. And again, this is why it's important to work quickly, because if you want a wet blend, acrylic painting dry very quick. So you want to make sure that you get it quickly and not just like, you can fix it later, of course you can. You can fix anything later, but I find it's better to address any situation as it happens. Call me crazy. Okay, so this is working pretty well so far. I might come back and address this in a little bit. It needs a little work here, but it's looking okay. What I'm gonna do now is kind of address this area here. I feel like this needs a little bit more darkness here, and that's one of the major things that people talk about in painting is that they're afraid to go too dark with their paintings. And that's the exact same way I was too, but don't be. The darkness is your friend, my friend. But it really, when you use a really dark value, what that helps to do is bring out the rest of the piece. Kind of sounds maybe a little weird, I don't know, but you really want those darks to be dark, the lights to be light, and the midtones to be midtones. And there are, of course, variances in between. But we're just darkening up those areas. I'm going to take a little bit lighter of a color and just to feather that out. So that's a very important part of this, is feathering out those edges. So you take a little bit of your lighter color that you have and you feather out those little hard edges, right? And sometimes it's okay to have those hard edges depending on what you're painting. For these purposes, you want a little bit of a smooth transition. We're going to take some more dark here, because I want this part to be kind of like a dark area, this receded area here. And just feather that out a little bit. Maybe right here too, and right here. And then we're going to feather that again with a little bit lighter of a color. Just go to those edges, make sure you don't have too much paint on there, otherwise it'll undo what you just did. And just kind of dab it in there. Because what you want is, some smooth transitions and some hard transitions. Because the rock surface is, again, it's varied. There's a lot of hard points and there's a lot of softer areas. You kind of want a mix of both. If that makes sense. I do some more titanium white here. Again, this is titanium white. You can't buy enough titanium white. You mix it with everything, so make sure you have a lot. But what I want here is some of the brighter spots to stand out a little bit. And as you go, you would be surprised how quickly stuff can start to come together. Obviously you have to continually edit things to make it to your liking, but I think, like I said before, just kind of the looser you are with things, it's better. It's going to look more realistic. And again, keep those hard edges. And I'm going to stand back again just because I want to see what the heck I'm doing here. All right, that's looking pretty good. I think I want to, some of those darker areas are a little too dark for me, so I'm going to come back in here and maybe soften them up a little bit.
I agree.
You do you?
I concur.
But you always want to be mindful of where the light is hitting, you know, where the light's coming from, because that's going to decide really where your shadows are. And you know, it's just that thing. It's like if you don't like something, you can always change it later. So I'm going to go back over to this side. I think it needs a little bit more contrast here. So just adding some striations. And then I'm going to come back in with like titanium white and just go over those edges a little bit so that it's not so stark. And just dab it in. But again, you have to be a little bit quick because it is acrylic paints. And sometimes you want some spots that are more, a little more, you know, white. And I can't say it enough. It's like stone is so varied. You have to give it its own life in essence. And a lot of times it is. It's a little bit about feeling. You're looking at it. How do I feel about that? Do I think it should be less or more? Not enough? These are decisions you kind of have to make along the way, and it's up to you, you know. So the rock I'm working on is not going to look like the rock you're working on, and, you know, vice versa. Vice versa. But see right here, a little too hard of an edge there, so I want to soften that just a tiny bit. And then I want to, you know, just go ahead and add some titanium white again, because I'm crazy like that. Just a swath. Boom. Look at that. I just did that. But that adds realism, you know, because nature is not perfect. And neither should your paintings be. And honestly, that's one thing I've learned through this process is a lot of times you try and be perfect with something and it just looks off. And a lot of times when you're just a little more loose with it, you just let your hand do what it thinks it needs to do type of thing, it just ends up better. It's hard to explain really, but...
Well, that's easy for you to say because you're good at painting.
Well, I'm getting
If I
there.
let my hand do what it wanted to do...
We won't go into that.
On a painting...
Oh, on a painting.
It would probably not turn out so good. We'll have to test that theory.
Boy, you're funny. All right, so I'm fairly happy with what we got going on here. And this is something that you can always come back and edit later if you're not happy with it. But what I'm going to do now is focus on the darkest parts of this painting. And actually one part that I didn't do yet, but that should be there, is this line across here, this crack here. So in order to do that, I'm actually going to take, let me see, what's a good brush for this? I don't know. Actually, that's a good one. If you can see that, this is what we call like a liner brush.
Oh, okay. Your camera, it was lagging.
Oh. This is a liner brush. It's thinner in nature than a round brush, and they're good for doing finer lines. It makes sense, I think. But if it doesn't, let me know and I'll tell you. All right, so I'm gonna take my darkest dark here, which is my Payne's Gray. If you have black, again, that's fine. And I'm going to, and again, just be loose with it a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just gonna make a line here. And that is going to be our crack. The reference image you have should always and only be just that, a reference, okay? Because what you're painting is never going to be exactly like the reference image. I mean, some people who are masters at that can do that, but it takes them, 200 hours to do something like that. I'm not really interested in that, and I hope you're not either, because it's just, otherwise just take a photo, I think paintings should have attitude, and they should have a presence, and they should feel different than a photo,
Whoa.
Whoa.
Controversial take.
So with that crack there, actually what I'm going to do, just to give a little bit of realism, and this is kind of hard to see, I need my magnifiers, is if you go on the very tip, on the edge here where the light would be hitting it, I would do like a little bit of a lighter color. And I know it seems like I'm doing nothing, but you'd be surprised how it does affect what the eye sees. Just doing a little bit of a lighter color on the top there gives it a little bit more life and actually makes it look more like a crack. Okay. All right, let's see here. All right, so I think we're gonna get into the casted shadow here. Now, this is actually kind of amazing because what the casted shadow does versus the core shadows is it really does ground the piece that you're working on. It really makes it feel like it's supposed to be there, if that makes any sense. So we're going to start with our Payne's Gray, of course, totally Payne's Gray. And then I'm just going to start from this bottom here and work my way out. And this is what I was saying earlier is like, this bottom side doesn't matter as much because it's all going to kind of blend together, right? We're going to make the shadow here. And this doesn't have to be perfect. We're not trying to do perfect in this class. We're just trying to get the essence of it. And also, remember you can dip your brush. If it's getting a little tacky, dip your brush in a little bit of water, get the excess water off, and then it actually blends so much easier. Amazing, right? And you want your shadow on the farther out you go to be a little bit lighter as well, so that actually works pretty good when you water it down a little bit. Let's see a little bit more Payne's Gray on that underside here. We just want that really dark. We want where the rock meets it to be very dark too. And if there's too much water on it, sometimes it'll just wipe away the paint. So to resolve that, sometimes what I do is I'll just dab it. You will get a similar effect. Because I'm impatient, so I don't want to wait for that paint to dry. I'm just like, no, I'm just going to dab it. It kind of has actually has a kind of an impressionist style when you do that too, which is kind of cool in certain situations. Mm-hmm. But we'll just dab it in.
Just dab it in.
And the further out you go, you can use a little less pressure and a little more space between if you want, and that'll give it the effect that the shadow's cast off is getting lighter as it goes, which is true to nature. So you kind of want that. But always start darkest up here and then go back, because your paintbrush will lose a lot of that pigment as you go. So it'll naturally get lighter as you go. And now, actually, you can't even really see it too much on the screen there. But like things like, there's a couple of hiccups here, little dots and stuff. So what? What are you gonna do about that? It's pretty obvious, I hope, that in order to fix that, if it's a white background, you just put some white on it. Oh, look at that, it just disappears. Mm-hmm. Seeing if there's anywhere else I want highlights. And also keep in mind, like, your brush mechanics matter a lot too. I haven't really discussed that a lot, but the pressure you put on the brush is very important also, right? So if you want a softer edge, you know, very soft brush strokes. And now for, okay, so that looks pretty good, I think. What we're gonna do is add a little texture. Now, there's a lot of ways to add texture. One of my favorite ways is to use something like this. This is, where's my camera? Where the heck? Is it here? Here. This is called a hog brush, and they're very bristly and hard. They're very springy, and what they're great at a few things, but one of the things they're good at is texture. But you don't want to just take it and dump it in here and then just start going to town. You want to wipe it off because you'll put way too much paint. And it'd be okay, it's fine to get like other colors in the mix too that actually kind of add some interest. But what you want to do is dab it off with a paper towel quite a bit, because if there's too much paint, it's going to look weird. So go back to the camera here. Now we're just going to add, it doesn't have to be crazy, have a light touch with it. It's okay to use your finger too. I use my finger all the time, but just adding some texture here and there. You can dab it a little bit, but this just helps to add a little bit of realism. More so on the sides than the top. The top is so bright, you don't want to mess with that too much. Actually, it's funny because the finger is one of the best tools for blending, believe it or not. There are blending tools, but it works pretty good. So to me, it's a little too patchy. So what I'm gonna do is take some of my original colors and I'm gonna dab it off. And then I'm just gonna kind of dab around that too, just to make sure that it's not super too much color, you know. Don't be afraid to wipe with your finger. Okay, now I'm gonna take my filbert brush, and just to kind of get some of that texture softened up, I am going to use a little bit of water. And I have these bottles because they're perfect for this. It's like a little, I don't know what you call this, little squirt bottle, I guess.
It's like what they use in the Rocky movies.
Yeah, it actually kind of is. But I'm going to take a little bit of water, because what water does is it obviously dilutes the paint, but what it also does, in a good sense, is it's kind of like a glaze. So it'll glaze over the top of your painting, so that whatever you've done isn't so stark. But you just kind of brush that on there, and it'll smooth some of those transitions from what we just did with the texture. So just make sure you, oops, camera. Yeah, I just want to smooth some of those transitions out a little bit. Yeah, that's better. Gave it a little bit of life. I might add a little bit of my base color here, just because I feel like it's a little too stark. Maybe a little titanium. More titanium. I mean, you could spend, and I don't mind because I love painting, so it's like I could be in here for 13 hours painting this and not care. But it does also come down to, the more you paint what you're doing, the better it's going to be, I feel. And it's just about layers. Layers of texture, layers of values, colors, shadows, all that stuff. So what I'm going to do now, because I feel like some of these areas are lacking, I'm going to go again with this stark Payne's Gray and get in here a little bit tight for the shadows and the crack areas. not crack head areas.
Mm-hmm.
Although that could be a class we do too. And you want the edge of where this meets and the cast shadow to kind of be a lost shadow. You don't want to see the edge of the rock necessarily. And that really also helps the realism. Getting this deep crevice here and just more black.
Kimberly, you need to look into changing your handle name.
What is it?
Tyler Crazy Man. But Tyler said it's not his account.
Oh, it's
and
not?
it has a K next to it. So I don't know.
That's funny.
Unless she's just trying to, keep people guessing.
That could be part of it.
Probably.
Yeah, let's get a little bit more. We're reaching the end, folks. So, folk. Like I said, this is something that I could literally probably paint for 4 hours. And still I would go back later and find issues with it and want to do something else. But I think for the purposes of this demonstration, we kind of have a pretty good lesson plan of what you can do and expect. But I think also most importantly is just to play with it. Once you're done here, go do your own thing, go do your own rock and just be loose with it. And if you do, I would love to see how that turns out. If you don't, you're dead to me. Wendy's over there typing like a cheetah on a treadmill.
I was responding to your sister.
I know. I know, dear. Well, I think it's pretty clear who won the brush set.
We had it kept going in between 3 and 2, but right when I would say something like, I was getting ready to say, okay, if you're watching, drop your name in the chats, and then they would drop off. So
Yeah,
I don't know if they're
okay.
lurking or
Lurkers.
or if they're having technical problems, or if they're just like super lame and didn't want to watch this, because that's the obvious answer.
That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah. Oh, now they're back. Now they may have heard me.
They heard about
If you're watching, drop your name in the chat.
So we also need to know because.
Now it says 1 watching. I don't know what's up with this thing. It keeps,
Yeah, I think that. There's things I can keep editing forever, basically. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I think we got a pretty good idea. Yeah, it's funny because it's just a rock, but it's got a lot of complication to it and a lot of things you need to think about, especially like I was saying with where the light hits. That's the most important thing, honestly, is where the light is hitting something. I don't care if you're painting a rock, a building, people, whatever it is. The most important thing is to understand where the light is coming from. That's going to dictate everything else about the painting. Because the most important thing I think about a painting is the light and the shadow. If you nail that, then everything else is going to be a lot easier, honestly. A couple more streaks in there just for the heck of it. I don't know. I just felt like I needed it. I might do a little bit of soften that up a little bit. Yeah, maybe in here too. It's funny, the camera actually makes it look a lot more severe than what I'm doing. Like the edges are harder. So it looks a little different in person here. Some of these harsher whites aren't actually quite that white in person. So it's just kind of funny. But I'll lighten them up or darken them down, I guess. Anyway, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We resolved, hopefully, Kimberly, my one fan. Hopefully you got something out of this. And, hopefully you were able to make your retarded cow look like a retarded rock. But I'm anxious to see. I want to see what you did, though. I want to see your painting. So send that to me. Send a photo to us so we can look at it. But
and make fun of it.
That's the main goal here. I'm actually just doing this so I can make fun of people who aren't as good as me. That's all I want to do is just make fun of people. So no, but did you have anything else to add to that?
No, I don't.
No.
It keeps going in between 2 and 3, but nobody else has said
I was
anything.
very surprised. I thought there would be like 300 people in here.
I know.
What the heck? But yeah, I mean, that was fun.
Yeah.
How long was it? It was about an hour. That's what I said.
Yeah.
That's what I said it was going to be. So yeah, that's it. Yeah. If you need any like mechanic advice or anything like that, I can't do that. But if you need to learn how to paint some stuff, I can do that. But anyway, thank you for joining. Those of one of you who did,
Yeah.
and hopefully more join next time. But thank you, Kimberly. Love you, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye.
See if I can actually figure out. You just say stop streaming. But then where's my mouse? Oh, there it is.